This is my final project for our technologies class, and I will be following this outline of my content. So the first section will cover a lesson that I have taught regarding the overarching curriculum, focusing on rhetoric, and then a project that I have assigned to my class with a technology or platform that they're using for the first time, and that will be focusing on our class novel In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. And the third section will review a lesson that I have observed by another teacher, and she was teaching a lesson on using and evaluating academic databases, which that in its own is also another, technology that the students haven't used before. And then the final section will be covering a new resource that I found that I think have many pros and cons, and I can see how it can be used with ELLs in future classrooms. So as you can see on my screen, we have OneNote that we use at our school, and so just to give you a little context and overview, we have covered rhetoric in a few parts. We have covered it in satire. We also looked into a variety of texts, and one thing that we really focused on were speeches. And then we went into logical fallacies and looked for vulnerabilities in an argument, as well as looking at those logical fallacies and breaking them into its parts. So we went into types of claims, all of those examples. We also went into the different types of logical fallacies, as well as, defining what makes an argument, the parts of an argument, and how to make them stronger. So with all of those lessons, and again, that was through all of the semesters, we have focused on the very main essential points of rhetoric and kind of put it into an assignment where the students will be showing how they have learned that. And so we have created a type of in-class project where students will be creating an infomercial, and they will be showcasing their understanding and comprehension of rhetoric as a whole. So to do this, I put the groups into 4 different members, and in those groups, those students will be showcasing their understanding of all of these main points, and they can be using things like costumes, props, visuals, a script, and really the script is what kind of makes this a little bit more accessible, and I'll kind of get into how I would make this lesson a little bit better in other ways, but one of the students were required to turn in an annotated script of the infomercial that they've recorded. So I'll show you an example of that. So here, this is not the final one. I had the students turn in their final script and annotated in person, but this is kind of how they were kind of working on those. So they have a proposal, they put their group members, and they will type out their main requirements and how they are put into their infomercials, as well as an outline script of who says what, and they would underline those requirements within their script. So another challenge that I found was that these students, some of them had some trouble getting motivated to work with each other, and some of these reasons might be that because they're camera shy, or because some other peers may be taking on more roles, and some may not be taking on any roles. So I think one way I would make this lesson better is to make more frequent check-ins with each group. And I mean, this is my first time assigning such a tech-based, project to my group. So just with future ones, to make sure that I'm checking in with their progress a little bit more often. And also, I think I would assign roles, more clear roles within the groups, because I just mentioned that, some of these students will be acting within these infomercials, and some of them will be doing voiceover, some of them will be doing the recording, and so on. So if I were to, with this assignment, assign specific roles to each member of the group, I think that would have made the lesson flow a little bit more smoothly. And before I move on into how this assignment does show WIDA standards, let me show you a few examples of what they have created. So again, they have created these infomercials, but also turned in annotated scripts showing how they have shown those elements within their videos.
Cockiness is key when you're a battle boy. Okay.
Hello, reporting live with current battle boy, and here I am interviewing him. Are you going to the NFL?
So here, I'm not going to play the whole video, but it's an example of the student showing authority within an argument, and they're kind of making a play or a satirical play on kind of the sports, or I guess athletes' tendencies at our school, and they're referring to an expert or an actual athlete at our school, and I thought that was kind of funny. And again, they turned in that script showing how they are showing these satirical or rhetorical elements within their infomercial. Here we have another one. They are kind of doing a play on, again, something athletic based, but they're doing it on a product, and they make it satirical where, here's the product that they're showing. They mix it with, I think raspberries, but they're making it satirical.
You know the product, we have the muscle. Now, we want to share our secret weapon with the world.
Do not consume if you are a beta male. You cannot handle the pump, you absolute pipsqueak. Get off your get to the gym.
Warning, correct help is not intended for the use of those under the age of 18. Do not exceed the recommended dose. Do not consume cinnamon or caffeine from other sources, including but not limited to coffee, tea, soda, and other dietary supplements. Consult with your physician prior to use. Do not use the currently prescribed antidepressant, aspirin, non-restorative, or medicine. Side effects may include but are not limited to heart, liver, kidney, thyroid failure. Notify medical attention immediately if experiencing difficulty urinating. Discontinue cracked up after receiving surgery or experience of extreme rage, rapid heartbeat, dizziness, severe headache, shortness of breath, or death.
The cracked up production.
Alright, so I showed a little bit more of that clip just because this was probably the best project I have gotten submitted to me, and they really did put a lot of effort into the project as a whole. So how this shows some WIDA standards is, first of all, I think it really highlights the can-do perspective that everyone can understand those main elements or main concepts of rhetoric, because, when the students first receive the assignment, they're like, oh my gosh, I don't remember any of this. But, working together, everyone is able to show their understanding in this creative way. So I thought one of the main things that is highlighted within this is the integration of content and language, because academic content is being explored within this sort of activity, but it's also highlighting all four domains of language, because they're practicing speaking and listening within the video or the infomercial, but they're also practicing reading and writing with, doing their research and doing their learning, and also creating that annotated script. Another component that I think relates to WIDA is it does, again, have these students, even though I don't have too many ELL students in my classroom, they're communicating this information and the bigger ideas and concepts that are necessary for that content area. And obviously we were focusing on the curriculum's focus on rhetoric. So the second project I've assigned was on our novel In Cold Blood, and when assigning this project, the timing of kind of our, senior exam schedule coincided with our AP schedules and all those exams. So our Socratic seminar kind of had to be very flexible, and I wanted to use this project for part 2 because I did had to create alternative assignments, which means I was able to integrate a couple more tech-based platforms within it. So again, it kind of started out as a Socratic seminar. It's kind of, a thing in our school that whenever our English departments do Socratic seminars, we are missing a lot of our juniors that day. So again, with everything else going on, we did have our standard Socratic seminar option, and with so many people out, we did have kind of an alternative assignment. So aside from these students who were part of this Socratic seminar discussion in class, the alternative assignments included storyboard that, and here we have an example of a student, and sorry for the graphic and all the blood stuff, but it was a true crime book. So the student kind of created his understanding of kind of following this character Perry and how he has really changed over the course of the novel. And their main focus for this was to highlight the difference between the two characters, and kind of I'm getting to this last part here. The section in the book where Perry kind of has a turnaround in the story, and he says this quote here, and at the end is saying, hey, but I do apologize for what I did, and that's kind of what we focused on in the Socratic seminar as well. So the student, this is just one example, but the student's experience and reaction to creating something a little bit more creative and not having to, I guess, suffer through the Socratic seminar. He really enjoyed being able to create this storyboard, this comic strip, because he's a really creative kid, and, he did put a lot of time into this. And then I had another student who did not want to do this. So she is a little bit more on, I guess, the infographic or kind of organized, nice looking alternative assignment. So she decided to use Canva because the students had an option to do either. So she kind of created a nice little overview of each of the sections in the book, and I think this is a really nice way to get the students to summarize what they have learned, and I probably actually plan on using this infographic with that student's permission for future classes. I think students really enjoyed this outline of the Socratic and having the options of the alternative assignments, and I also think that it would be different for ELL students as well, but I think the alternative assignments might kind of lower the students' affective filters, and, if students, get a little bit nervous having to either debate or communicate or kind of defend their answers within a class setting, this is another way to show their understanding without having to do that. And I also think that for ELL students, those alternative assignments are a great way to show their understanding in a way that feels authentic to them. So the third section is a lesson I've observed, and this is kind of something that only people with my school's access can get into, but once you get that unlocking key, you can get actually into the database. So we have a catalog here, a database with all of our subscriptions, and then here is the lesson that I was observing. So she actually went through all 3 lessons. I'll just show one of them, but we went through each lesson, so you would click on that, and it brings you to Microsoft Sway. This is something I personally haven't used myself. So you would have this open on your screen, the teacher would have it on her projector, and this is also accessible at home. She has a little voiceover that I have paused, so you don't hear 2 voices at the same time, but it kind of shows how search engines work, answers the basic frequently asked questions, has videos that you can play. I really like playing this video for my class and explaining to students how search algorithms work, and more parts of the lesson. So you can keep going through the lesson, and again, this can be done in person or at home. I think one way that I would improve this lesson is as much videos and information and